There's a guy who's trafficking drugs, who's the police, because his daddy is a drug dealer too. But there's a twist to this story. Let's put him up full mask. So trafficking organization, that's what this is, a trafficking organization, pleaded guilty on Monday. So this guy admitted to lying during an interview with FBI agents on April 2019 when drug smugglers kidnapped his father. Talavera Jr. said his father, Pablo Talavera Sr, wasn't involved with drug trafficking. Now that's a hell of a statement. Jr., however, had known for years that his father actually did in fact smuggle drugs. Talavera lied to the FBI during a critical moment, betraying his badge and breaching the public trust. U.S. Attorney Alamdar S. Hamdani said in a statement, quote, in doing so, Pablo chose his father's criminal organization over the people he was sworn to protect. Now this office will hold him to account for his corruption. So Jr. worked for the Texas Department of Public Safety. That was between 2015 to 2021, according to documents released under the State's Information Act. The FBI arrested the Jr. during an investigation that focused on his father. Pablo, who headed a drug trafficking organization that smuggled methamphetamine from Texas to Tennessee, in the course of the investigation, FBI agents learned that Sr. made representations that he and his family members, both in corrections and with probation that could assist with him obtaining information for the benefit of the DTO, which is their organization. That's according to the complaint. So Talavera Sr., who claimed to have an attorney friend who could get Sr. any information on any case for a fee of several $1,000s. The FBI also discovered that Jr. worked for the Department of Public Safety. An informant told the FBI that Jr., quote, utilized his position as a Texas DPS state trooper to obtain and provide law enforcement sensitive information and escort money, a bunch of cash, and or narcotic loads for the Talavera DTO. That's according to the criminal complaint against agents set up a sting in the operation. So now this is interesting. You basically have an individual who's part of a legit, not legit criminal enterprise. This is a significant criminal enterprise. On July 30th, 2021, an informant met with Sr. During the meeting, the informant posed the question to Sr. if he could obtain the registration information for a car that had been impounded by the Department of Public Safety in Live Oak County. Sr. said yes, he agreed, and said his son had assisted the drug trafficking organization in the past, according to the complaint. The informant provided Sr. with the car's license plate number. On the 8th of August, the informant received a text from Sr. that included the registration information. The FBI then posed the question. They asked the Department of Public Safety to review the data from the law enforcement telecommunication system. Every state has it, to find out who searched for that number. That's how the system works now. It was Jr. It was Jr.'s account, according to the criminal complaint. So during a conversation with the cooperating defendant in the case, Jr. admitted that he conducted searches for his father. One was a recent query, end quote, told on himself, okay? According to the criminal complaint, which summarized that Talavera Jr. told the cooperating defendant and the other occurred a long time ago, end quote. The criminal complaint doesn't identify who the cooperating defendant is by name. So what happened? Well, Junior agreed to a plea deal, naturally. Agreed to a plea deal, plead guilty to simply making a false statement to the FBI, which is punishable by a maximum of 5 years in prison. In exchange, prosecutors agreed to drop the drug charges. As part of his plea, Talavera Jr. admitted that he also made those false statements to the FBI when drug smugglers kidnapped his father. Okay. So first of all, obviously, everyone should understand it's not just Senior and Junior. Obviously, Junior would have never been the brains of the operation anyway. So he ends up caught up in a major criminal investigation against major narcotic runners, right? He gets off with simply pleading guilty to telling a fib to the FBI. Isn't that ironic? All right, Senator, how do you see this?
I mean, certainly, I got higher expectations of the two toddlers in my life than they did of this guy who holds the community trust. Brothers on the street got more time for dime bags than what this person who took an oath of office to protect and to serve, to uphold the law, and he is involved in a criminal, a sting operation as you laid out. I'm not surprised, but this is stunningly embarrassing. And it is a reminder because oftentimes, Doc, people assume that just because a person is of a certain profession, we should give them deference in terms of they don't lie, they don't cheat, they don't steal, they don't kill, they don't destroy. But this story right here should remind us that all people are human, no matter if they law enforcement, teachers, doctors, lawyers, priests, preachers, anybody can be fallible. And that we should not put people like this on the pedestal. Now they have a higher obligation to not do these things, but that assumption that law enforcement would never ever do anything wrong, well, this story right here just makes it plain that they too can be involved in criminal deeds.
Yeah, extreme. All right, update guaranteed to come.